All right, guys. Well, it is the middle of November. Crazy. I'm 2025. And I just can't believe how fast the year has gone by. Like, it's been honestly probably one of the best years of my adult life. So I'm super grateful for it. But it's wild. Like, it just has flown by. And so, um, I've been talking with my clients more about year end and what that looks like. And I think there's this feeling of most people aren't quite ready for that yet. I think, Q3 is usually quite busy for people. Um, but there isn't this feeling of slowing down quite yet or preparing for next year, which is okay. But what I've learned from my own experiences in the past and then even my clients is that they kind of wait till December to start quote unquote dealing with year end. And I don't mean from a business perspective, like, yes, that's a part of it too, but just from an internal state, they kind of push everything off till December. And then what happens in December is now you're inundated with holiday stuff, right? Or like my American friends, it's about to be Thanksgiving there. So it's like kind of once Thanksgiving hits, it's like now it's like holiday season and you're planning for get togethers and having family over and maybe taking vacation, like all these things. And so then you go in from the busyness of whatever's happening work wise Q3. You also have targets if you're trying to finish off a strong Q4. And then you're also now setting targets for next year and then transitioning into busy family time. And then, like, who gets left in the dust? You.
Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast, where high performers come to grow without stress, shame, or burning out. I'm Mintu Lamb, and I'm here to help you work smarter, live fuller, and feel like yourself again. If you're tired of running on empty, book your complimentary assessment call at higheralignmentconsulting.com/program, and let's figure out what's draining your energy and what you can do to start feeling happy and peaceful once again. You can find the link in the show notes. Now let's get into the episode.
Right? That's what always happens is the year end comes and you're exhausted and you're overwhelmed and you think, where did it go? And in that whole entire process, you forgot about you. So I actually had a group coaching call with my clients a couple weeks ago, and I do one-on-ones and group coaching calls. But I love the group coaching calls because you get to hear everyone's perspectives and you get to sit in the room with other people who are dealing with the same thing. And it just like breathes like a sense of normality into the room and amongst everybody. And so we talked about where everyone's at as far as feeling overwhelmed. And so what the point of this episode is I'm going to take you through the exercise I took them through, which is making sure we end Q4 on a note that we feel good about. Like, don't get lost in the sauce, don't get lost in the chaos. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm not saying that all your responsibilities and whether that be professionally or personally are gonna just disappear, but we want to do it in a way where we're not losing ourselves in the process. Okay. So I am actually today just going to take you on this on the through the exercise that I took them through in hopes that this will help you. And really what it is we just want to make sure we end the year on a note that actually feels good. And I live in Canada, so we're going into winter, which shockingly enough, we don't even have snow on the ground yet, which is pretty nuts for us. But I am very respectful and try to be in tune with the nature of the seasons. And when you think about going into winter, fall is harvest, and then winter is hibernation. And I think that it serves your body and your circadian rhythm and your psyche more when you are in tune with nature. And maybe you haven't thought about it that deep, but I've learned that the more I work with the rhythms of the seasons, the better I float through them. So if we think about winter being hibernation and and that it's a time of going within and restoring yourself and refueling yourself, then we want to make sure we transition into it in a way that actually feels good and that we're hibernating with good intentions and in alignment with the things that are important to us. We're not hibernating purely because we're exhausted and burnt out and we have no other choice. We're doing it intentionally, right? So, how do we do that? Well, The first thing you need to do is we need to look at what's happening externally that's overwhelming you or maybe getting you mixed up in the chaos. And then we need to look at what's happening internally. Okay. So, again, I'm just going to take you through the exercise that I took them through. So, step one before you start this is I would say go do a 10-minute walk. Go do 5 minutes of a 4-7-8 breath work, which means 4 inhale, 7 hold, 8 exhale. Like go do some regulation first. Okay. And you can pause this and go do that and then come back and listen to the rest of the episode. But the reason that's so important is because we're constantly trying to do things with our mind, which, yes, the mind is a necessary piece of this puzzle. But the reason that change is hard to make sometimes or why things don't stick is because we don't incorporate the body. You guys hear me talking about the nervous system all the time. You guys hear me saying, get out of your head and into your body. Well, it's because, and you've also heard me say this multiple times, that the body is 80% of the power. Like when we're taking in information, 20% goes through the mind, 80% goes through the body. So if you're trying to switch up from being scattered to being more calm, everyone just tries to think their way through that. Just, okay, just relax, just think positive, everything's gonna be okay. And can you get to a relaxed state thinking that way? Yeah, but it'll take you way longer. Or if you go regulate through the body, you go do some breath work, you go for a walk, you go maybe hug somebody, you maybe go do some stretching or some light yoga. It doesn't have to be long, even 10 minutes. You get back into your body and you'd be shocked at how much faster you'll switch up from going from scattered to calm. Okay. So, again, before you go into the rest of this, pause this video now, go do 5 minutes of breath work and go for a 10-minute walk and then come back and listen to the rest of this. Okay. So, after you've gone and regulated and you've gotten your body back into a more balanced state, which essentially means you're going to be thinking a lot clearer. Okay. The first thing I want you to do, which if you haven't already, grab a journal, grab a pen, right? Because you're going to want to write things down through this exercise. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what feels most overwhelming to you right now. What feels most overwhelming and what part of your life or work feels like you're on autopilot or like out of alignment. And then on top of that, I want you to write down where are you reacting instead of responding or choosing? Okay. Now, again, pause as you go through this episode because you're going to take some time to write things down. But the reason you want to do this is because we need to put on paper what's actually happening. When you're trying to think it all through, I always say thoughts are like clouds. It's impossible to make sense of clouds or to like stop clouds or like, you know what I mean? They're just free flowing and that's how our thoughts are. So you need to put that on paper so you can actually look at what's causing the chaos right now. So, what feels most overwhelming? Which part of your life or work feels like you're on autopilot or out of alignment? And where are you reacting instead of choosing or responding? Okay. And then once you've written those out, I want you to see if there's a common theme amongst them because there will be. And look if that common theme is being unable to set boundaries, overcommitting yourself, maybe not knowing how to prioritize what's actually important. Maybe it's people pleasing. Just after you've written everything down, look for what the common theme is that is showing up amongst all those things, okay? Because what this theme is this is the root cause of your chaos. It's not the external events. It's not the coworker that's always emailing you. It's not the deadlines. It's the root of the fact that either you don't know how to say no, or you're saying yes to too many things. I guess those are kind of the same. Or you don't know how to prioritize. That's the root of what we need to deal with. Okay. Now, again, you're going to have to pause. I'm just going to go through these things and you guys are going to have to pause along the way. Once you've figured out what the root cause is, okay, the next thing you're going to do is we need to get in touch or back in touch or reconnected with what actually is important to you. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want you to write down what your three core values are, and not based on like how you've previously done things, based on like who you want to be today or maybe who you want to be in the future. So for instance, for me in the past, I probably would have wrote things like I want to be top of the leaderboard. I want to be able to like I don't even know. That's I was so long ago for me. It's hard to connect with that person. Um, I want to make X amount of dollars. I want to have X amount of things like this title or accolade. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what I would have picked before. Now my top priorities are being present in the moment, feeling free in my decision making, and having inner peace. Those are my three most important values. Okay. Another way you could phrase that is the desired state. So if so then the other way you could work this back is if you write down your values and those are more tied to, let's say, the like what I said with the money thing. So maybe the money thing is on there. Well, another way of like framing that you want X amount of dollars is usually because you just want to be free financially, right? Or not feel restricted in that area. So go from So write down either what the top values are or what your top goals would be, and then tie it back to the desired state. If you accomplish those things, how would that make you feel? Okay. That's what we really want to get in tune with. Okay. And again, pause if you need to go ahead and write those things down. But the reason those are so important is because, again, we need a North Star. We need to know what we're working towards amidst all this chaos. Just because there's chaos happening doesn't mean we lose sight of what's really important to us. Okay. After you've written down your top three core values, I then want you to write down when are you your calmest and most grounded. So when you're in that state, what is actually important to you. Like, I think we can all relate to the fact that when it feels like everything's burning around you, you get in survival mode and you hyper fixate on things that maybe if you were really calm and regulated and balanced wouldn't be as important to you. So think about when you're in a more calm and balanced state, what's actually important. And then write down what that looks like in action for you, live time. So if you were going to do this live time and put this into play, what would that look like? So let me think of an example. Like if or when I'm in a present state, like when I'm present and I'm experiencing inner peace, I don't have my phone around me. I'm not thinking about what I have to do tomorrow or worrying about what happened yesterday. My body is relaxed. My chest is like grounded and open. I'm just in the moment and clear-headed. Like that's how I know I'm in a moment of presence and inner peace. So for you, when you're in that state or when you're living those values, what does it look like physically for you? Okay? And then I want you to ask yourself, when things get crazy, which one of those values gets sacrificed first? For me, it's my inner peace and presence get sacrificed. So if I'm overthinking something or I'm in survival mode, which does still happen to me, guys, I'm not perfect. Do you mean I'm not living in a state of it, but I still have moments of experiencing it. It's just a natural part of being human. So when I'm feeling those things, what does that look like for me? My mind's going a million miles a minute. I am not present. I'm thinking about what I have to do tomorrow, what I have to do a week from now. Did I get that last meeting right? Like, did I do everything right? So I'm thinking about everything else and I'm constantly checking my phone. So I'm refreshing emails, I'm refreshing my social media. Like, that's how I know I'm out of balance. And that's what gets sacrificed, my inner peace and my presence. So once you've written all those down, write that down next. Which of those values gets sacrificed first? Now, The reason it's important to pair those two together is because, again, we need to know what the external situations are. We need to get to the root cause, which is I am not prioritizing my tasks properly. And when I don't prioritize my tasks properly, this is an example, then I end up sacrificing my inner peace, right? So now we actually know what intrinsically is happening. It's I I I lose track of what's really important, and therefore my inner peace goes, right? I don't know how to prioritize. And so now that we can identify what those two things are, we can actually get to the root of it. And now we can also start to actually follow through and pay attention to that exact root cause. Because if we go back to thinking about all the things that are overwhelming us, this, then it's hard to just narrow down what actually is the root cause, which there's always a root cause. Okay. It's just like, well, I have this thing to do and this thing to do, Minty. Like, how am I supposed to pick one? Okay, so then we need to narrow down what's actually happening internally. Okay. We need to use these values and these desired states as your compass so that when chaos inevitably happens, because it's going to, especially if you're a high performer, you have some type of guideline to not get lost in the sauce again. Okay. So the next step in this process is now I want you to write down a current situation or obligation that is really stressful. Actually, you know what you should do is write down three. Write down three things that come to mind that are really overwhelming you right now in this current moment. Okay. Write those down. And then once you've written those down, I want you to pick the one that you think needs to be the priority, right? Because here's the other thing is when you're in survival mode, everything feels urgent. And maybe they are to some degree. But the reality is you can't take care of everything at once. I don't care who you are. You can't. And if you try to, you're just going to do a crappy job on everything. Okay. So again, from this regulated conscious state that we're dissecting this through, when you write down these three things and which one, I want you to pick the one that feels like the biggest lever that you can pull. It's probably going to be the one that you've been avoiding the most. And not because it necessarily takes the most work. In your mind, it might because of the chaos and the unclear thinking. But the one that you're like, oh, I've been putting this off the most. And if I took care of this, it would just really relieve so much stuff. I want you to pick that one. Okay. And then again, once you've picked that one, I want you to ask, which value is this compromising? Which desired state is this currently compromising? Again, go ahead, pause, do what you need to do, write it down. And then what I want you to feel into is that if we could take care of this from an optimized, balanced, grounded state, how much closer that would bring you to your desired state that you're after. Again, the freedom, the inner peace, the calmness, whatever the case is, right? Now, again, pause if you need to. I've said this so many times, but I'm flying through this right now, guys, for a reason, because you're going to have to pause and write the questions down as we go. Okay. Now, once you've decided what that lever is, we are now going to practically put this into play. Okay. So for you, maybe that's having a difficult conversation with your boss. Maybe that's finally organizing some files that you've been putting off all year. Maybe that's setting your target for Q1 next year, just whatever that is. This is how we're going to practically put this into play. And you're going to do this with everything, but this is the example. So for me, for example, let's say it's um, having a difficult conversation with my boss. I want to talk to him about restructuring a few things in my role, maybe a pay raise. But that's the thing that's been sitting on my desk. And it's not because my boss is an asshole or he's not going to want to talk to me about it. It's just because there's some fear behind it. And I've been in survival mode, dealing with everything else, but it's been weighing on me. And I go to bed thinking about it every night and it's robbing me of my inner peace, so on and so forth. Okay. And what would be the root cause of that? The root cause of that one would be, well, it's about restructuring my role so I'm more effective in it. It would be about overcommitting myself. I've been saying yes to too many things. Therefore, I feel overrun in this role and I need to have a conversation with him about it. Again, this is hypothetical, guys. I'm trying to break it down to you in a way where you understand what this exercise has taken us through. Okay. So, whatever your task is, this is what I want you to do. Your task might be something you can get done in one meeting this week. Your task might be something that's going to take a few weeks to tackle. But whatever that task is, I want you to pick step number one. Okay. So, step number one in my example is booking the meeting. Okay. Booking the meeting is going to be my first step. So, because I know this is so dysregulating for me, and even though booking the meeting for my particular example is going to take 5 minutes, even less, to either send an email or go to his calendar and check it off, whatever the case is, the first thing I'm going to do before I do it is I'm going to regulate before and I'm going to regulate after. Well, first, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my calendar to make it happen. So, it's Tuesday and I want to make sure I have this for either this week or next week. So I'm either today going to do it or tomorrow I'm going to put it in my calendar to book meeting with Bob. Okay. But before I do that, I'm going to create space for me to regulate in my body before and after. So again, booking a meeting, 2 minutes, if that, probably 1 minute. But I'm going to book in 10 minutes before to either do my breath work or go for a walk. And I'm going to book in 10 minutes after to do the breath work and go for a walk. Okay. Either or. Now, why do we do that? Again, back to what I said earlier. Right now, that idea of booking that meeting and having that meeting feels treacherous to me. It feels scary. It feels overwhelming. It feels anxious. And so I keep pushing it back, right? It's creating all this chaos in my body. When we regulate before and after said task, it teaches our body that it has the capacity and that it's safe to do these hard things. Okay. So when you do that, you go into booking the meeting with a clear mind. And when you do it after, you're telling the body that, hey, we don't have to stay in this stressed out state for too long. Okay. Because that will happen. Again, something as simple as booking a meeting, of course you can do it. But then after, you might be like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. What if it goes wrong? And now you start spiraling. That's why you go for the walk after. That's why you go regulate after. So your nervous system doesn't stay in this heightened state and continues to drain you. It can bring you back to a place of inner peace, to a place of inner calmness if you regulate after, because regulation cues safety in the body. Okay. So I'm going to do that with the first step, which is booking the meeting. And then guess what? Once the meeting's booked, whenever that meeting's going to be, what am I going to do? I'm going to regulate before the meeting and after the meeting. Why? For the exact same reasons I just said. To teach the body that it has the capacity to do this hard thing without having to burn so much energy on the back end, and create safety in the body that, wow, we do have capacity to do these things. Again, when we just try to think our way through everything, we waste so much energy. And something as simple as booking a meeting, which only maybe needs 5% of your energy, is now taking 30% of your energy because you're so worked up about it. And something like having the meeting might only need to take 30% of your energy, and now it's taking 60% of your energy because you're so worked up. When we incorporate the body before and after, it actually allows our body to be more present, to be more regulated, and handle things from a place of clarity versus reacting from stress. Okay. And so, what you're going to do with whatever that first task is that you picked, you're going to do that every time, regulate before and after. Okay. And what that's going to do now is it's going to show your body that it can exist in your desired states as you go through this last part of the year, right? That's the whole point of this exercise, is that when you go through this now and you're reminded of this every time you go through these tough things that you inevitably have to deal with this for the rest of the year, It allows your body to do it in a way where it's not sacrificing your values every time. And then when you do it in microdoses, it allows you to build every time you choose to regulate and experience a little bit of groundedness or a little bit of presence or calmness before you do something hard. The nervous system goes, oh, that actually felt pretty good. I think I want to do that again. And then what it does is it actually looks for opportunities and situations for you to experience that more. And then what happens is now these North Stars of yours, whatever you chose for your desired states and your values, you get to follow that through the end of the year and into the beginning of 2026. Okay. That by far, my friends, is the best strategy that I've seen in how to conduct not just the end of the year, but your entire year, right? You need to get the body incorporated and working with you, get the nervous system working with you so that you can actually stay and experience these desired states. You're going to have heightened moments. Yes, it's inevitable, but you don't have to stay in that all the time and then get lost in it, right? So you're in November. You're about to go into December where maybe work chaos gets just overtaken with family chaos, right? Because it's the holidays. You have to treat, whether it's personal or professional, these, um, what's the word? These demands, if you will. That sounds maybe a little bit heavy, but these asks of you or these commitments and responsibilities, you have to treat them in a way where they're not putting you last. And you're the only one who can do that, right? But you need a system. And I know because my clients are all very high achieving, like very high tolerance, high capacity people. Sometimes it seems so almost like trivial and silly to like, I need to strategize how to have inner peace. Like, I need to strategize how to navigate being like having fun. And like, yeah, honestly, like when you've been operating in burnout mode or push through mode or hustle mode for so long, joy, inner peace, present feels so foreign to you. And I'm speaking from experience and all the people I work with. So, like, yeah, you have to retrain your body how to do these things. And so, this is the way to do it. So, if you want to end 2025 and begin 2026 in a way where you're not losing yourself, this is the easiest strategy to start to follow. Okay. And when you do this repeatedly and you keep going with it, it'll become more natural in your body to implement. Okay. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It happens through consistency. It happens through really making sure you're not putting yourself on the back burner in the process. But I promise you it works. Okay. So take the time now while we're still mid November to get clear on what's overwhelming you, what the root cause is, what's important to you, and bring how to bring those desired states into your life without sacrificing yourself in the process or sacrificing even your work in the process. Make it non-negotiable. And again, get the body involved.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go subscribe and leave the podcast a 5-star review so that it can help find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. And having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to this, please go leave it a 5-star review, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode, and we'll see you in the next one.